Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. It's a football Monday, and we got a lot of football to talk about. It's going to be a spectacular show. Steve, Kim, T.J. Moe will join me in a bit. I'm going to start the show off myself because I got some things I got to unpack about Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, who's now 3-5. And I'm going to combine it with a take on Coach Tomlin, who fell to 4-3 last night in a disappointing performance against the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers took on his former team at home, and he was in Pittsburgh and got the brakes beat off of him in the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter, lost that game by 10 points. I'm going to combine those two topics. We got the NFL truths that we'll unpack as well. And we got some other topics that are kind of interesting that Steve and TJ and I will talk about. We'll talk about some NFL stuff with those guys as well. But there's something I'm going to end the show talking about Shannon Sharpe myself. But we'll talk a little Brian Kelly getting fired. We'll talk about Cam Newton slapping a mascot. And people being fed up with Pat McAfee. That's interesting. I think this is Front Office Sports that wrote about that, and it's kind of been picked up everywhere that people at ESPN have kind of had it with Pat McAfee. So a very fantastic, dynamic show. First thing I need to tell you guys to do, though, if you're listening over Apple, is make sure you hit that 5-star rating. We need it. It helps us fight the algorithm. It helps us grow the channel. So do that. It's the least you can do to support me. The other thing you can do is join me in thanking our sponsor for today's show, and that is Preborn. You guys know about our relationship with Preborn. It's the organization that does the best job of supporting our worldview that life begins at conception. And Preborn engages with expectant mothers who are considering an abortion, and they try to introduce that mother to the baby in their womb. They do that with an ultrasound. They introduce the heartbeat, a visual image of the baby. And now that mother is twice as likely to choose life. Each ultrasound costs $28. That's where we step in. We donate to Preborn so they can give ultrasounds to mothers, and you can do it on a monthly basis. You can do it whenever you feel like it. There's two ways to give. Dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say the keyword baby. Or visit preborn.com/fearless. Guys, this is important. It's how we give back. It's how we honor God and let him know that we're making an attempt to be obedient. And one of the greatest things we can do to obey God is protect his most precious gift to us, and that's a baby in a mother's womb. It's a blessing. So this is how we fight Planned Parenthood and the demonic forces that are trying to kill babies in the womb. We donate to Preborn, whether it's $28 that pays for one ultrasound or $140 that pays for 5, whatever your best gift is. And maybe it's far more than that. We would certainly appreciate it. Preborn.com/fearless or dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. All right, let's get into today's show. And when I looked this weekend at Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes getting beat 53-7 by Utah. And Utah's a good team, borderline top 25, lower back end of the top 25. It's a good team. 53-7. 53-7 in, what is this? Is this year 3? This is year 3 of Deion at Colorado. He was putting this great turnaround together. He's the greatest coach in the world. He should be the Cowboys coach. He should be the Dolphins coach. He should be Penn State's coach. He should be Notre Dame's coach. He should be everybody. Alabama, FS, Florida State, everywhere. Deion should be the coach. They're headed towards, I believe, another 4-8 season. They still get to play West Virginia, and West Virginia is one of the worst teams in a power conference, one of the worst teams in Division I football, in my view. They get to play West Virginia. They should beat West Virginia, but there's no guarantee of that. They finish with Arizona, at West Virginia, Arizona State, and at Kansas State. They're not going to beat Arizona State or Kansas State. They have an outside shot at beating Arizona. This smells like 4-8 all over again. This smells like all the shine is coming off prime time. And it was a rebuilding year. They lost Shedeur and Travis Hunter. Man, teams are rebuilding in a transfer portal cycle. This isn't the old days where it takes 5 years to rebuild a program, or even 3 years to rebuild a program. All it takes is one offseason and enough money spent in the transfer portal, and voila, you have a team that can contend for a conference title. It's not going to happen here. Deion Sanders is who I thought he was and who I said he was. And I'm the reason I'm celebratory of this is because Deion sets a bad example. He leads through racial idolatry. He leads through a victimhood mentality. I'm going to connect Deion's failure to Mike Tomlin's lack of success here in the last decade. He hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. They go out and sign Aaron Rodgers. They go out and get DK Metcalf, and nothing has really changed in Pittsburgh. This is looking like another 9-8, 10-7, back into the playoff football team. And the only reason why they're going to back into the playoffs is because Cincinnati and the injury to Joe Burrow, and Baltimore and the injury to Lamar Jackson. If not for that, Pittsburgh would probably most likely miss the playoffs entirely. And there's still a chance, even with the Bengals giving away a game and all that, there's still a chance of them missing the playoffs. And I'm connecting these guys because they have a black burden. There's a burden that goes along with being a black coach. And I'm comparing Deion and Tomlin to Todd Bowles and Marcus Freeman because I think Todd Bowles and Marcus Freeman have a different mentality than Deion and Mike Tomlin. And they've been treated differently than Deion and Mike Tomlin. I don't think Deion and Mike Tomlin share the exact same attitude. Deion definitely loves to play the race card. Deion definitely sees himself as a victim. Deion definitely wants to be a race soldier. But what goes on with these high-profile coaches like Deion and Mike Tomlin, they're lathered in so much over-the-top praise. They're lathered in so much idolatry and people rallying around them and people excusing any and everything about their coaching that it undermines their success. It as it relates to Deion Sanders, we crowned this man after a, what was it? Was it a 9-3 season last year or 8-4 season last year? And people are running around pretending like Deion Sanders has set the world on fire. From Skip Bayless to Shannon Sharpe to Stephen A. Smith, everybody, and these are the black guys, but the white folks, the white reporters did it too. Deion Sanders won a few games. It started year one, even when he went 4-8, but he started out kind of hot, I think 3-1, and everybody was acting like Deion Sanders was the greatest gift of coaching, and he's not. It's embarrassing and undermining the level of praise that's been lathered on Deion Sanders. Coaching and competition and athletics in general, it's best played and it's best performed, it's best executed by people with a desperate mentality to prove themselves. Deion Sanders doesn't have that desperation because he can get all the accolades, he can get all the money without putting in the same level of effort as other coaches. They've been running around with Deion Sanders on these Affleck commercials with Nick Saban as if Deion Sanders is the second coming of Eddie Robinson. Deion skipped over everybody. And next thing you know, he's right next to Nick Saban. Here, Nick Saban, the gold standard in college football coaching, and he's been paired with Deion Sanders. Based on what? Winning 10, 11 games at Jackson State? Based on what? I mean, because this happened his first year at Colorado. Next thing you know, Deion Sanders is being paired alongside. Maybe it was even while he was at Jackson State being paired alongside the gold standard of college coaching. He hadn't proven that, and he never will because he's not on that level, but we gave him all the rewards as if he had. And now look up, we're going to have, in my view, 2 4-8 seasons at Colorado and 1 9-4 season. Deion, and if Deion, I think Deion will back out and retire and move on to other things. But if he did come back, trust, it will not get better. It will only get worse. And it won't just be Deion to blame, because he's had a bunch of co-conspirators. He's had a bunch of people that have gassed him up and led him to believe that he can do no wrong. He's never been held to a standard. He gets to pretend like, oh, I faced all this animosity and resistance during my pro career. No one's ever liked. That's all garbage and a lie, and it's completely made up. Deion has been worshipped since his days at Florida State, and he's been worshipped through his playing career, and his athletic talent was so immense that it didn't matter his attitude when he was a player. But your attitude matters as a head coach because your attitude permeates the rest of the team. And Deion has poisoned the environment at Colorado. I cannot say the same thing about Mike Tomlin. For the most part, I like Mike Tomlin's attitude. I can't sit here. You know, he coddled Antonio Brown when he was there. He doesn't seem to be a strong disciplinarian, but I like Mike Tomlin's attitude. But he's been worshipped just the same as Deion Sanders. He came out of the box hot. In his second season as the head coach at Pittsburgh, he won a Super Bowl. 2 years later, he advanced back to the Super Bowl and lost to the Green Bay Packers. When 2 out of your first 4 years you make it to the Super Bowl, you deserve some applause. But you also deserve the perspective of like, hey, man, and most people that cover the NFL know this, but they don't like talking about it. The Pittsburgh Steelers organization, the Rooney family, runs their organization in a unique fashion where every head coach, and they've had 3 basically in my lifetime, and I've lived 58 years. They've had Chuck Noll, they've had Bill Cowher, and they've had Mike Tomlin. They all won Super Bowls. They all pretty much had winning seasons most years. That organization runs that team more than the head coach. They've built a system in Pittsburgh through the Rooney family. It's run in a unique way. That's not to discredit Mike Tomlin, but it's the same way I look at Bill Cowher and I'm like, hey, man, I think Bill Cowher is a great broadcaster. I think he was a rock-solid coach. But what's he doing in the Hall of Fame? And I can say that about Bill Cowher without people going, oh, you're racist, or, oh, this unfair. But if I say it about Mike Tomlin, I'm like, hey, man, nice start. I get the, hey, he's never had a losing season. I get all that. But when he won Super Bowl and another Super Bowl appearance, The bar should be higher than that, and it has been, but it's been lowered under the racial idolatry deal. It's because, and look, man, I really love and respect Tony Dungy, and I get the sacrifices he made and all that, but Tony Dungy was a borderline Hall of Fame head coach. He won one Super Bowl. He had great success at Tampa. I'm not saying that Tony Dungy isn't a Hall of Fame football coach, but we know he got into the Hall of Fame because he's the first black coach to win a Super Bowl. Being the first black person to do something doesn't automatically qualify you to be in the Hall of Fame. There's a level of resistance that you must face in order to achieve greatness. It's like building muscles. If you do no resistance training, you won't grow big muscles. You won't become strong. And the resistance has been removed from too many black coaches while we pretend like, oh, what we had to do to get this head coaching job. Oh, we had to do twice as much as the white person to get this head coaching job. That's not true. There was a time when that was true. That time hasn't existed for 40 or 50 years. It's a myth. There is very little resistance for a lot of these coaches, black coaches. And we wonder why they don't build big muscles. This is intentional. The people, the system that does this, that lathers people with praise, unearned praise, they're doing it intentionally. Again, let's say Ryan Clark it's like he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's been installed in that position to do exactly what he does. Stephen A. Smith, installed in that position to do exactly what he does. Black broadcasters, male and female, know that it is their job to remove the resistance for black people and to not make them have to work as hard to earn what others had to work really, really hard to earn. And that doesn't mean everybody. So I'm saying every white coach faces incredible resistance, but they are held to a higher standard. And when you lower the standards, you're lowering expectations and you're going to lower the results you get. And that's why, as we look across the football landscape right now, there is no great black coach because greatness hasn't been required. Just be good and we'll pretend that you're great. And so we're today, and there's been a 30-year hardcore push and about 20 some odd years of the Rooney Rule push. Look at the results that have been produced throughout football. And I'm comparing college and pro. I'm combining them. And I know they don't have the Rooney Rule in college, but they might as well have. Look at the results. As we sit here today, if I had to say who the best black coaches are, they're actually Todd Bowles and Marcus Freeman. And you know what's interesting about them? They face some real resistance. Todd Bowles won't play the racial game, and so the media really doesn't like Todd Bowles. Marcus Freeman won't play the racial game. He's married to a white woman. And so he's being held to a standard. And people, they have a gun to his head. Hey, you got 2 losses this year. You better win out, or there's going to be questions about Marcus Freeman. Everybody knows that, and everybody's good with it because Marcus Freeman won't play the racial game, and he's married to a white woman, so he gets held to a high standard. He's got a gun to his head. And it's going to make him achieve at a higher level, or he'll flame out. But I like Marcus Freeman. I like Todd Bowles. They want to be held to the same standard as everyone else. Deion Sanders has never wanted that. Mike Tomlin has been denied that out of fear. Oh, I'll be called racist if I question. How come they haven't won a playoff game since 2016? How come he hasn't done anything since Ben Roethlisberger left? You can't ask those questions. Everybody, black reporters and journalists fear, oh, I'm going to be called a sellout and an Uncle Tom. White reporters fear being called racist. But the Steelers, 4-3, just lost to Green Bay, got at home. Aaron Rodgers returning to play against the Green Bay Packers, and that did not go well. Pittsburgh's defense, something isn't right. They've given T.J. Watt a bunch of money. He's got 4 sacks on the season. You can't just say it's all double teams. You think people aren't double teaming Myles Garrett? This man's got 10 sacks, got 5 yesterday. Something isn't right. The motivation, the pressure, the tension. Again, it's like if you want to fry some bacon, you got to turn that heat way up. And I like bacon. We're not turning up enough heat on Deion Sanders and Mike Tomlin, and that's why the bacon's no good. The heat is on Todd Bowles. The heat's on Marcus Freeman. The bacon's better. There's a burden to being black in America that black people have participated in and helped create. The removing of standards, the lowering of standards is crippling black Americans. And you can see it in football. You can see what's happening at Colorado with Deion Sanders, where he was anointed and appointed and celebrated as this great coach, even though it hadn't been earned, and now we're seeing the proof of it. Similar situation going on with Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hope I've unpacked this properly. I hope no one thinks that I think Mike Tomlin is the exact same as Deion Sanders. I don't see him that way. Mike Tomlin is more authentic than Deion Sanders. But in terms of the lowering of the standards, yeah, that's impacting their level of success. Wanted to unpack that, get that off my chest to start off. And we're going to move on. I have an additional, I want to unpack the NFL truths when we come back. Before I get to the NFL truths, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season on Prize Picks. Whether you're a football fan, a basketball fan, or a fan of both like me, it always feels good to be right. Mama Whitlock has some NFL picks for Monday Night Football. She's got Rashee Rice more than 6 receptions against the Commanders. Mama, I kind of like that pick. That's a good one. I think the Chiefs are going to win in a blowout, and I think Rashee Rice is going to eat more than 6 receptions versus the Commanders. I like that. Prize Picks now offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Steph Curry's 3-pointers and assists? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. Prize Picks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. On Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code FEARLESS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code FEARLESS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. When we come back, I got my NFL truths. Next. And many of these black professional athletes that want to run around with their little hip-hop victim mentality, there go the bad guys. They're the real bad guys. They think I'm the bad guy. But those are the real bad guys.
You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. Come on. The last time you're gonna see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you.
The truth.
Yes, you can, because you're about to get it. Time for my NFL truths. I want to start with number 10.
10.
Jordan Love last night. I've been a skeptic. I've been a critic. I've been someone I've been shorting the Green Bay Packers because I haven't been a believer in Jordan Love. Well, Jordan Love has made me a believer. I thought he was tremendous last night. 360 passing yards, 3 TDs. Micah Parsons was pretty disruptive as well. I have to give it up to the Green Bay Packers, and first and foremost, I got to give it up to Jordan Love. The Packers are 5-1-1, and I got to get off my whole deal with Jordan Love. He's now entered into the MVP race. This MVP race is wide open. It's Baker Mayfield, it's Jonathan Taylor, it's Drake Maye, and it's Jordan Love. He has entered the chat. Next.
9.
Sean Payton. 6-2 after stomping the Cowboys yesterday, 44-24. The Broncos have now won 5 straight. Guess who's not impressed with the Denver Broncos? Yours truly. I'm not buying it. I don't believe it. I'm not buying Bo Nix. The Cowboys are that bad on defense that they made the Broncos look incredible. I'm not with it. Look, Sean Payton, hell of a coach, but I'm just not buying Bo Nix. I'm just not buying that offense we saw last night from the Denver Broncos is the real Broncos offense. Not buying the Broncos. Next.
8.
Let me celebrate the end of Dak Prescott's MVP run that was being forced by the media. The Cowboys lost yesterday to the Broncos, and Dak Prescott was very pedestrian, 188 passing yards, 2 interceptions. We can quit pretending that Dak is going to win the MVP this year. Dak Prescott, I got a basketball analogy for you. Anybody remember Dominique Wilkins, the human highlight film? He'd put up all these great numbers, never pee a drop in the postseason. That's Dak Prescott. Next.
7.
Lamar Jackson's injury situation. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if it's a big deal, little deal, or no deal. I actually need your help because are we making a big deal of this because of this NBA gambling scandal? If that hadn't happened and kind of shadowed or put a cloud over all of professional sports this past weekend, would the whole Lamar Jackson, did he full practice on Friday? Did he not practice on Friday? Did the Baltimore Ravens muddy up what people thought about Lamar Jackson's availability? We thought Lamar Jackson was going to start this week. We thought he was healthy. Come to find out, he's not. And we didn't get that information until Friday or Saturday. And if not for the gambling angle, I'm not sure this would be a big deal. Luckily, if the Ravens had lost that game or hadn't covered the spread, I think the conspiracy theories really would have gone through the roof. But even without Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens had enough to take care of the Chicago Bears, and they did that. But I'm not sure. I get why people are talking about it, and trust me, as someone that thought about putting a little money on the Baltimore Ravens, had they pulled these type of shenanigans, I would have really been upset if I would have felt like I was hoodwinked, and I almost overreacted and bet the other way, but I didn't. I said, let me stay out of this. This game is screwy. All right, next.
6,
Drake Maye. He's the next Ben Roethlisberger. He is Big Ben Roethlisberger. He's the real deal. Gerard Mayo and that coaching staff look very foolish based off what Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots are now getting out of Drake Maye. 3 TD passes yesterday. This is despite this man got sacked 6 times yesterday, 5 times by Myles Garrett. They still put up 32 points. He still threw 3 touchdown passes. He didn't or maybe I think he had 1 turnover. He had 1 interception, but played a remarkable game despite immense pressure. 6 sacks. They put up 32 points. Drake Maye is the real deal. The only comparison that works is Ben Roethlisberger. He's the only quarterback of recent years that would take the kind of beating that Drake Maye did and still put up numbers and lead his team to a victory. Drake Maye, I salute you. You're the real deal. Next.
5,
Let's do our weekly Shedeur Sanders update. The Shedeur Sanders, this is the read people should be having. Right now, everyone's saying, why are they playing Dylan Gabriel? Dylan Gabriel's trash. Why won't they play Shedeur? This Kevin Stefanski hates Shedeur Sanders. That ain't the take, y'all. Dylan Gabriel is trash. He's a midget. He has no business being a starting quarterback in the NFL. He can't throw the ball downfield. I think he's averaging 4.9 yards per attempt. He is trash. But let me tell you this about NFL coaches. They want to win so badly. They know if they lose, they're in jeopardy of getting fired. So all this Kevin Stefanski must hate Shedeur Sanders take is wrong. The actual take is, holy cow. Shedeur Sanders must be the biggest locker room headache in the history of professional sports. Why won't Cleveland play him? Do you know how trash Shedeur must be if that coach is sitting out there looking at Dylan Gabriel, the little midget that can barely see over the offensive line and can't do anything consistently, and they won't go to Shedeur? The takeaway is, what is Shedeur doing? Does he know the playbook? Is he retarded? What? That's the take. And I don't care what happens when Shedeur finally does get in the game, because I think they'll be forced to at some point. If he has success, it won't be, well, Kevin Stefanski shouldn't have waited this long. Blah. No, it'll be like, Shedeur, what were you doing to turn off this entire organization, to turn off this coaching staff, that they wouldn't turn to you? They'd rather play a midget quarterback that can't see over the offensive line than you. Do you know what kind of nightmare Shedeur Sanders must be? Next.
4,
You know what Shedeur needs? He needs to channel his inner Justin Fields. Justin Fields just put a clinic on how you handle criticism. And this is why criticism is so valuable. It'll bring the man out in you. It'll toughen you up. It'll make you compete. Justin Fields had an off this past weekend where the owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson, took an unbelievable cheap shot at him publicly. And then Justin Fields comes back out there and leads the Jets to their first victory. They put up 23 points in the fourth quarter. Fields leaned into his faith and I want to play one of these clips of Justin Fields after the game leaning into his faith. The man is absolutely incredible. This is the power of Jesus Christ. Shedeur Sanders, take notes on Justin Fields. This is how you turn yourself into a winner and a true comparison. Let's hear from Justin Fields.
In that moment when I was talking to my best friend, how hard it was and just, not wavering faith-wise. I just had gotten a text from my sister and my stepmom, and it was just an encouraging text on, just keep going and keep spreading the faith. And they just sent me a link on social media. And I tell you guys all the time that I'm not on social media, so I didn't see it. So that was just it was just a sign from God for me to keep going and that, I'm in the right place. yesterday I was just praying over and over and over again, like, yo, like just one win, and but all that to say is that God is real, God is good, and everything that we go through in this life is for a purpose. So yeah.
Thank you, Justin. That's all I want to see from these athletes. Some real humility, some honoring of their creator. That Justin, no one. If y'all want to cape up and say, oh, he's being mistreated, blah blah. You could say that about Justin Fields. The owner took an incredible pot shot at him over the weekend before this game. Talked about how trash he was. And then the man still went out there and performed and led the Jets to their first victory of the season, and then came in his post-game conference and gave honor and glory to God, his creator. That's how you handle criticism. You don't play the victim. You don't whine and cry. You don't have your daddy take little cheap shots or send out people in the media. When's Shedeur gonna play? Justin Fields, you're my MVP this week. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on next.
3.
In this same game, the Bengals give up 39 points to the Jets. The Bengals give up 39 points to the Jets. The Bengals didn't have a turnover. Do you understand? 39 points, you surrender, and your offense doesn't turn the ball over? And look, the Bengals, I don't blame them, or I halfway do blame them. I get why they're not. I understand why they're 3-5 and they're not giving up, because the Steelers are trash and they're 4-3. I get it, but I think the Bengals should give up. I think they're done this year. And so the Dallas Cowboys called the Bengals, Jay Glazer reported, this weekend asking about Trey Hendrickson. And the Bengals said no, said they're not interested. Dallas needs to call back. This loss to the Jets is so embarrassing. To give up 23 points in the fourth quarter and to blow this game, to surrender 39 points to the New York Jets. Wrap it up. Move on from Trey Hendrickson. Let him go to Dallas or someplace else where he'd have a chance. Move on. That was embarrassing. Next.
2.
Raheem Morris, you're digging a hole, young man. You just got blown out by Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins came in on a stretcher, and you breathed life into them. The Dolphins beat you 34-10. You got the most expensive backup quarterback in football in Kirk Cousins, and you get blitzed at home. This is Raheem Morris's second bite at the apple as an NFL head coach. There will be no excuses. There'll be no, oh, he should have got more of a chance. Oh, they're racist, any of that. He's blowing it. They got Michael Penix, the young second-year quarterback, and they have an experienced backup in Kirk Cousins. Cousins had to play yesterday and did nothing. And then your Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins' offense has been horrendous, and you gave up 34 points, and you got a $150 million backup quarterback, and you only scored 10, and you're at home. Damn near a fireable offense, but Raheem Morris is going to get the pass. Arthur Blank's going to bend over backwards, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, to make this work. He's digging a hole, though. Atlanta continues on this trend, and finishes up 7-10. 6-9, somewhere around it. You got to move on. You got to move on. All right. Last but not least.
1.
I want to share with you all. Oh man, how did y'all not put up a picture of John Hadley? What? I want to share with you all a note that John Hadley sent me. John Hadley is my producer. We're not sure. He's somewhere on the spectrum. He got dropped on his head as a child, and we have to deal with him very, very carefully. But I want to read you what he sent to me in my prep package for today. Bo Nix is now 16-9 as a starter. The same record of John Elway in his first 25 regular season games with the Broncos. Hadley, why would you send me that? Did you just try to compare Bo Nix to John Elway? Are you really that retarded? It's one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard. Then after that, I could have gone on. He sent me all these stats. Compare John Elway threw this many TDs and this many interceptions in his first 2 years, and Bo Nix has done this. Hadley's the guy off to the right of TJ Moe. And Bo Nix has thrown this many TDs and this many. And I'm like, Hadley, two different eras. If Bo Nix had played in the 80s with John Elway, he probably would have been cut. He couldn't even play. It's a ridiculous comparison. Don't you ever mention Bo Nix and John Elway in the same sentence ever again in a note to me. John Elway is the greatest quarterback of all time. Yes, I said it, and I mean it. And yes, I know what Tom Brady accomplished. I know all the Super Bowls he's won, but I know quarterbacks, and I know when I see the GOAT, and it's John Elway. And he doesn't belong in the same sentence with Bo Nix. It's a fireable offense. Would you guys send me emails at fearlessblazeshow@gmail.com or hop in the chat right now? Should John Hadley be fired for suggesting that Bo Nix is in the same category as John Elway? And I'm taking these votes very seriously. John Hadley could be fired. That's your NFL truths for this week. When we come back, we'll get TJ Moe and Steve Kim's take next. This is Stephen A's best performance. And this is, I'm going to show you, this is all part of his campaign, his political campaign. LeBron James is just a prop now for Stephen A. Smith and Bob Iger's political aspirations. This is LeBron pandering to the MAGA crowd. Did I say LeBron? This is Stephen A. Smith pandering to the MAGA crowd, beating up on LeBron James. People are going to celebrate. Look how even-handed Stephen A. Smith is. Stephen A. Smith is not even-handed. He was given a green light. Now is the time to use LeBron James as a trampoline. We're tired of LeBron James. He feels like he can come out from underneath our control. He's flirting with people from Saudi Arabia, talking about starting a competitor to the NBA. We have to put the chain back on LeBron James, and that is Stephen A. Smith's job. Carmelo Anthony is cooperating. Russell Westbrook is cooperating. A lot of people are going to be cooperating. All right, welcome back, gentlemen. Steve Kim, TJ Moe, welcome into the show. I want to start, Steve, my take or your take on Deion Sanders, 53-7 at Utah. Is this a plane crash that can't be saved, or can someone get in the cockpit and redirect this plane?
He's muted. Steve, you got to unmute.
Steve, you got to unmute yourself. There we go.
Yeah.
It's first time on the show. Go ahead,
I will tell you
TJ.
that, to me, this looks like a plane that cannot be saved. I'm not sure they want it to. What's kind of interesting is he brought in Marshall Faulk and he brought in Warren Sapp and these guys. Remember what Warren Sapp said? This is something interesting, and I know you're close with Warren. I like Warren. But remember what he said, and I found this interesting, and it was actually the first tip-off that I thought this is never going to work. Warren said, I would never coach for anybody else because they don't have a life. These guys want you home at 5 o'clock and you come in at regular hours and they want you to, he said this, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but his point was, you don't sleep in the office. You're not spending real time doing this. I love that. This is great. You cannot win doing that. And so these guys are not putting in the effort and they brag about it, right? All the coaches are telling you it's their favorite thing. and that, hey, you want to have work-life balance. Like, successful coaches don't have a work-life balance. Show me the coach that has had incredible work-life balance and just leaves the office at 3:00 on Fridays to go home, spend time with his wife. It just doesn't happen. And so I never thought this was going to work the second Warren Sapp said that.
Let me defend Warren a tiny bit here and say that I think that was his expectation going in. I think Warren Sapp, once he got in, is like, oh, I don't mind working nonstop because I actually love it. Where I think you're right, though, is by Deion saying that, putting that thought into the air, and then by his assistant coaches looking at Deion's work level. I think that's what sets the tone, the negative tone, is that perhaps because of health issues, perhaps because of arrogance, Deion doesn't put in the level of effort that a head coach normally does as a tone setter, and that corrodes the entire thing. But Steve, what's your take?
TJ, to your point, Warren Sapp actually said a couple years ago, oh, I can never work for Mario Cristobal. He makes his staff work too hard. I'm not doing that. Okay. Couple things. When people talk about Coach Sanders going to like an SEC school, and Jason, you and I have talked about this, that's an absolute meat grinder. It's the most competitive conference in all of sports, right? This man, when it comes to recruiting, does not make home visits. He expects blue chippers to come to his house. So he does come to my home visits. Look, I'm not going to call him lazy. I'm just going to say this. That's not competitive.
It's
not
arrogant.
Competitive. It is a level of arrogance, but it's also a sense of entitlement. Jason, I find this to be interesting because if you really examine Colorado's season up until this weekend, I thought they were a little bit better than their record indicated, given the fact that in a couple of their losses, they had 2 touchdown leads. They could have actually been a game or two better. So I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe they're not that bad. As I'm watching parts of that Utah game, because we had other games on at JB's, I was amazed by how bad the effort was. And I don't even think the worst part was 43-0 at the half, believe it or not. The worst part was Colorado's total offense in the first half was negative 18 yards. Call Guinness, because that might be a world record. And I think he's got an issue now. He keeps talking about how his son can't learn by sitting on the bench and not playing. What is he telling Juju Lewis, his top 10 quarterback, who really is not even a backup at this point? So it really leads me to believe that if there's going to be a steep decline, it may have begun this past weekend.
Well, let me try to knock these down or respond. Juju Lewis clearly isn't as good as advertised. I think he's an overrated 5-star guy. I'm basing that off of we haven't seen him, and there's probably a reason. If he were any good at all, he would be out there. Deion's not mishandling him. He's probably misevaluated him. And so they're just stuck with it. He's not the first 5-star guy that's not a 5-star guy. I want to just reiterate it. Arrogance is the entire problem with that program. Arrogance will make you lazy. Arrogance will make you think, hey, I don't have to go out and recruit. I'm Deion Sanders. The recruits want to come to me. That's the entire problem. And then once the assistant coaches see that, hey, this guy coaches from he shows up to meetings whenever he wants. He cancels meetings whenever he wants. He has other things that he gets involved with as a head coach. The head coach, particularly in a program with Colorado's history and struggles, the head coach is someone you have to worry about. Hey, is he going to kill himself? He's working 18 hours a day. And then once the head coach does that, that's when the assistant coaches say, well, I better work 18 and a half. And that's not the tone Deion sets. It's an arrogant program that thought there were shortcuts in terms of, man, I'm Deion. I'm going to surround myself. Deion thought, I'm going to make Colorado so fun for young athletes. We're going to have every rapper in here. We're going to have every Hall of Famer, Black Hall of Famer in here. And this is why Deion's intentional. this year, and you'll think I'm joking, but it's when Deion was making a joke about all the weed smoke he was smelling from the student section, he was doing that to try as outreach to the young players, the young recruits that like to smoke weed. He's trying to look how much fun we have here in Colorado. The kids all smoke weed. We got rappers in here. Terrell Owens and all these former Hall of Famers are on the sidelines. I got Hall of Famers on my coaching staff. Come kick it with us at Colorado. It hasn't worked.
Jason, to buttress your point a little bit, remember, and Steve will remember him, Kermani McLean, 5-star corner who was committed to Miami at a time. He was a bust too. So at some point, when do we look at these 5-star kids and say, this is Deion's fault? How often is a 5-star kid actually a bust? Because it's not that often.
Let me defend Cormani a little bit, though. You know he's playing a lot. I think he's starting and playing a lot at, is it Florida State?
Florida Gators.
Florida. Yeah, he's actually better away from Deion. Continue.
No, and that's my point, right? And so instead of coach, he came in with a certain expectation and he bombed. And so look, Deion couldn't play him and he tried to go to the media and say that. But like at some point you look around and say, all these 5-star kids can't just be bombing it out. Like it happens on rare occasion, but for a 5-star kid to show up to a college campus and be unplayable in a time where you got to play the 5-stars or they're transferring the next year. You have to play them. Everybody knows this now in the transfer portal. So, the chances are the quarterback's going to be gone next year. He knows it, and he's going to be good somewhere else. So
I don't think Juju will. There were rumors about Juju beforehand that he was overrated, but continue. I don't think there's a lot of people surprised by Juju being a bust.
We will find out. My larger point in going back
he's
to
Black Arch Manning. I'll say that, TJ. Go ahead.
Caden Robertson and I remember how to say his name. Owen Carey, the two kids that you had over to talk about Deion, the former players
we had in studio. Interviewed him on Fearless. Yes.
Yes. Those two guys told us everything we needed to know about the culture there. You can't succeed that way. And that is my larger point. And it's like, look, the 5-star kids get treated one way, and it actually doesn't work for them. What we found out so far. So the only two players that this has worked for are Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Show me the other players that this has been really good for. Anywhere. It's good for Warren Sapp and Marshall Faulk. I actually don't think Marshall Faulk minds working. He seems like a guy who likes probably spending long hours there. But Warren has told us he doesn't. So that's no shot at Warren Sapp saying he doesn't like to work long hours when he's told us he doesn't like to work long hours. So the culture is you treat the guys who aren't that valuable as though they don't exist. You treat your son and his best friend as though they're the most important people in the world and they can drag you to some wins. And then the coaches that you hire don't want to work that hard. Like, how did we think this was going to work?
TJ, to your point, Confucius say, what is rewarding is not always fun, and what is fun is not always rewarding. And to me, that's football at the highest levels of college football. I guarantee you there's a lot of people that played for Nick Saban who will tell you for months at a time they hated it. They hated the process. But then when they're done and they look at their rings and whatever life lessons they learned, they're like, man, I'm glad I went through that. It can't always be fun because now you're actually skipping the process. Jason, last night, something came over my YouTube feed, and I was curious because it was a game between two West Coast teams that are pretty good. San Diego State and Fresno State having really good years. And I watched the highlights, the condensed game. And San Diego State is a solid football team. They're tough. They're physical. They don't make a lot of mistakes. And I believe they're now 7-1, and they're going to have a really good year. Jason, do you know who San Diego State's head coach is right now?
Of course.
Sean Lewis.
Yes.
Right. The scapegoat a couple years ago. And I get the sense, based on the job that he's doing with the Aztecs, he's probably going to parlay that into a bigger job down the line. It kind of hit me like, wow, they did Sean Lewis a favor.
Maybe he'll parlay it into the Colorado job.
Oh, that'd be ironic.
Well, Jason, what do you think it's going to take to fire Deion? He's got, to me,
he'll quit.
Very long leash.
No, he'll quit. If they go 4-8 this year, I think he quits.
What if he doesn't?
Huh?
What if he doesn't? I mean, because this goes back to your conversation a little bit about Mike Tomlin. Now, he's doing much worse than Mike Tomlin, who's Mr. just a hair above 500. But like, he's got a pretty long leash. Colorado was unbelievably irrelevant for a very, very long time. Going on.
He would get one more
years.
year. If he doesn't want to go after this year, he'll get one more year, and then they'll dust him. His leash isn't that long. They're so overextended financially, hoping that they hit the lottery. And again, a lot of the shine has come off Colorado. The whole celebrity thing, when Travis and Shedeur left, like the circus went with Shedeur, and it's in Cleveland now. And there's just a lot less interest in Colorado,
Jason,
but yeah.
Jason, you used to be a connoisseur of Las Vegas back
Yeah.
when that city was not in a depression, right? And I've been to Vegas many times covering prize fights. And there was always like this hot club that would pop up, right? And for 3 months, you'd drive past it on Flamingo Road or Sahara, and you'd be looking like, wow, what's going on over there? Long lines, leggy women, all the influencers, the hot people are there, right? Then you come back 4 or 5 months later, you drive by the exact same spot, and it's an empty, abandoned building. The old velvet ropes are on the floor. It's like it's just dead. That's Colorado football. It's that hot Vegas club that ain't so hot anymore.
Yeah, there used to be, and maybe he's still hot, but it's like these DJs that are a dime a dozen. There was a guy named Dead Mouse or whatever that, you had to go to wherever he was DJing, that's where the party was. And then the next thing you know, it's someone else. And yes, the Deion, they're going to have to do some other bright, shiny thing at Colorado trying to breathe life back into that program because the Deion thing has flamed out. And again, it'll go on for one more year. Look, the media doesn't even talk about him nearly as much as they used to. The media, all his sycophants have mostly jumped ship. Let me move it to Mike Tomlin. And is this look, Green Bay's a really good team, but Pittsburgh at 4-3 with Aaron Rodgers and, having controlled much of that game until the fourth quarter. I thought that was a very disappointing loss last night for the Steelers. They're lucky that Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are hurt. Although, Baltimore getting this victory without Lamar Jackson this week, and it looks like he'll be back next week or this coming week. It's not assured that Pittsburgh's going to win that division. And if they don't win that division after the quarterback injury situation within that division, I think there's going to be a real conversation about Mike Tomlin post this season. Steve?
Jason, we talked about, 3-4 months ago, that Mike Tomlin just cannot eke by with a 9-8 year and be the second or third wild card team. He has to win double-digit games and be emphatic in his playoff run, right? Yesterday, what I saw was a 9-8 type of team, a 9-8 type of performance. And Jason, I disagree with you. It wasn't just the fourth quarter. From the time that game was 16-7 Pittsburgh, and you're thinking, okay, Pittsburgh might actually make a statement. The Green Bay Packers were dominant. That actually looked like the team that I was expecting to see last year. And I thought that Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers were kind of symbolic of the two teams. One was a past all-time great that shows glimpses. He shows flashes. Well, Jordan Prime is in his athletic prime right now, ready to become that guy that can lead a team to some big things.
Yeah, I don't know what's the matter with Pittsburgh's defense, why it's not more of a factor. T.J. Watt seems to be a shell of himself, covered in cash. I don't get Pittsburgh's defense. T.J., your thoughts on last night?
Well, it is more of the same. Some of it, I actually think Aaron Rodgers has been pretty good. But I think a mixture. I probably don't think the Packers are quite as good as you do. You have them as, I don't know if you've gone through it yet. You're going to go through your top teams. I don't think they're quite as good as you do. They're fine. Okay. And the Steelers are middle of the pack fine. I really don't think any of these teams are great. I couldn't tell you, maybe Hadley could give us some statistics on the Steelers defense. I can't figure it out either. watching the Steelers defense, it is infuriating because it just hasn't been like this over the years, right? And so I don't have a good answer for the issues. What I will say is, and we're talking about Tomlin. At some point, you have to part. Like at some point, you just have to cut the cord. I was looking at Bobby Bowden. Like it was hard to get rid of Bobby Bowden, a legend down at Florida State. But like at some point, you had to force him to retire. He was 10 years removed from being that guy. 2001 was basically his last dominant year. And then after that, I think he had one more decent year. And you said, Bobby, you got to go. Like, I get it. We're the Steelers. We have one coach that stays for a very long time. But at some point, you have to cut the cord. And I really don't know what you're waiting on at this point. Like, could he even, let's say he surges this year and finally has that year. Let's like, okay, well, Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback. What next? Because he's going to retire in a year or two. Like, do you actually have the confidence that Mike Tomlin, all right, he's really hit his stride. Here we go. Why not just cut the cord? What are we waiting on?
You're the Rooney family, and the Rooney Rule is named after you. And,
And you did the entire NFL service by employing a black head coach for a very, very long time, and you can move on. And guess what you can do? You can hire as many black coaches as you want. You can have an entire pool of black coaches and say, we're the Rooney family. We're only going to interview black head coaches. That's what we're doing. You got a lot of options. It doesn't have to be Mike Tomlin.
Well, you led me into debating my top 5 teams. And so it's a unique list, I think, and open for disagreement or want you guys to disagree if you disagree. I got the Kansas City Chiefs as the best team in football again, even though they're 4-3. I think they'll prove that tonight by dominating the Washington Commanders. I think, they got their weapons back. Their wide receiving core is healthy again. I think my man Chris Jones is motivated after getting embarrassed on that goal line play against the Jaguars. I like Kansas City's defense. I like everything about the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're the best team in football. I've got the Detroit Lions at number 2. I think they're the second best team. It's like everything has reverted to like, hey, this is what we thought preseason, and now it's back. I have the Indianapolis Colts at number 3, another dynamic performance. I think they've scored 30-plus points in every game but one this year. I've got the Green Bay Packers at number 4. I'm done criticizing Jordan Love and disrespecting him in any way. They're 5-1-1. And then my 5th team is the New England Patriots at 6-2. It's a unique list. There's some teams that aren't on this list, from Philadelphia to Seattle, and a couple other teams that I thought had a good argument for this.
Broncos and Bills. Yeah. Anyway,
Steve, what do you think of my top 5? Disagree? What's the craziest thing I got going here? Your thoughts?
Boy, I hate to admit it because I called this team a fraud 4 weeks ago. What a freezing! The Chiefs are good. That's that old Mark Twain. The rumors of their demise were greatly exaggerated by yours truly. God. But Jason and TJ, I want to say this right now. Is it time now to begin the Drake Maye VP candidacy? I think right now he's a top 3 quarterback. I'm watching a good part of that Browns game against really good Browns defense. Second half, he is just slicing them, carving them up, going deep, hitting every throw possible, and he's athletic. You call him Big Ben, Jason? I think he's a more precision passer than Big Ben. He actually plays on time, doesn't take as many hits because the game's regulated that way. When you look at that 2024 quarterback draft, that whole class, you redrafted. He's number 1. I don't even think it's close. And Mike Vrabel has shown what a serious football coach he is, and that Tennessee made a terrible decision. My other thing, if I had to choose a number 1, I'm not necessarily arguing or disagreeing with the Chiefs. I think the Colts are for real, guys. All they do is score 30-plus points, and the guy that nobody's talking about, because I know Indiana Jones has been the comeback player of the century, my MVP vote would go to Jonathan Taylor. He is absolutely carrying that offense and making it easier for everybody on that football team.
TJ?
Yeah, so fun fact of the day. Did you guys know that Drake Maye was a Pro Bowler last year? You want to know how useless the Pro Bowl is?
Really?
That is the fun fact.
I didn't know they had a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, they have a Pro Bowl now.
So they moved it now, by the way, this year.
Right.
They have acknowledged how useless it is, and they moved Pro Bowl week to the Super Bowl week because it doesn't matter anymore. But anyway, he was named as an alternate to the Pro Bowl, and then what so and so. So that tells you how useless that whenever anybody says they've been to 12 Pro Bowls, and now just tell them, yeah, Drake Maye made it his rookie year, and what a disaster it is. He had 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, made the Pro Bowl. All right, so that is one thing. I do think he's really good, though. I mean, and I love the Big Ben comparison. He's poised. He's still young in year 2. He gives the Patriots a legitimate chance. They're in the second tier. I actually think you have the tiers about right, Jason. I would probably flip. I think the Colts are the best team. I've been watching them like Steve has. Not only is Daniel Jones hitting his bat, but like he turns around. You know what kind of season Jonathan Taylor's having? He's having the kind of season that Marshall Faulk only had a couple times. He's having the kind of season that LaDainian Tomlinson only had a couple times. He's having the kind of season that Priest Holmes had one time, where it's like, virtually every time he scores or he touches the ball, it seems like he's going to score a touchdown. It's that kind of weird season. He's dominating at a pace. I mean, even I don't totally understand. So we talked about Derrick Henry last year as though he was unstoppable. I think I read that Jonathan Taylor's on pace for about 2,400 all-purpose yards, and he's going to lead the league in touchdowns. And so I think that's the best team. I think they're certainly scoring the most points, and everybody has in their head Daniel Jones from the New York Giants. That's just not the guy anymore. That's not him. Not with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. And so I would switch that. The only other thing I would add in your last 4 out, you didn't name the Rams. The Rams were on a bye last week.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Rams are 5-2, and I would put them probably right at 6 right now. They're right there with the Patriots for me, between 5 and 6. Other than that, I think your list is pretty good.
Steve, I think there would be an argument, and I thought about it but didn't do it. The Rams probably should be. JB would be going scorched earth right now, the Rams not being in the top 5.
I agree. And when you get Puka Nacua back, it turns out Devontae Adams still has some juice left in those legs. You have the best pure pocket passer in the world still in Matthew Stafford, a Super Bowl winning coach, very good young defense. And they actually outplayed the Eagles for 80% of that game. They should be a one-loss team, right? And then they blew a game against the Niners that easily could have been flipped. They're not that far from being undefeated. So as we look at it, good call by TJ. I believe the Rams make a very strong argument for being in that top 5.
I want to move on to something I said earlier, get you all's reaction, that everybody's got the wrong read on Shedeur. Like, Kevin Stefanski must hate Shedeur. And I'm like, no, the read is Kevin Stefanski must really think Shedeur sucks, and the entire organization must think that. If you can go out there and watch Little Dylan Gabriel and think it's not even worth running this guy out here in the fourth quarter, Shedeur must be a real headache. I think that is the proper read, rather than Stefanski just hates Shedeur and he's racist and he'd prefer to lose games than win with Shedeur. That makes no sense. Steve?
Or maybe he's trying to protect him, because as I'm watching this game, I'm thinking he might be doing him a solid. Seriously, look, Stefanski is human like the rest of us. All these coaches say we don't worry about the outside noise. I think that's impossible when the noise is that loud all the time. This is a classic catch-22 for a guy like Stefanski. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because let's say he throws out and trots out Shedeur out there with that terrible offense, and they lose 38-0, and he just is god-awful, right? You know what the chorus is going to be? Oh, there they go again, the Browns, setting them up to fail. Stefanski don't like them. Right now, maybe, this is just my theory, maybe Dylan Gabriel is being used as a sacrificial lamb to actually protect Shedeur, because quite frankly, Stefanski does not want those headaches.
TJ?
It's a decent theory. Look, we're talking about a team that's started 41 quarterbacks since 1999. 41. Okay, Shedeur would be 42. Do we actually think they'd be that reluctant to go on to the next guy if he was ready to play? Like, they've gone to 40 others after the first one since 1999. Suddenly they're afraid for next man up? Somebody's going to have to explain it to me. I will say also, though, Jason, I tend to think your theory is right. He either doesn't know the playbook or whatever. That doesn't mean that Stefanski doesn't hate him, though. I would hate him if he didn't know the playbook. Hey, man, you have a job to do here. And when you show up and you're the sideshow and you're, miming it up and all that, I probably would hate you if I were them. The last thing I'd say is this. In a league that has very little discipline and in, probably the worst franchise in all of sports, the Cleveland Browns, that certainly doesn't have a lot of discipline. Wouldn't people be calling for him if he were any good? What player have you heard calling for Shedeur Sanders to get more playing time?
You can't do that.
Ryan. Oh,
you can't.
Who? Why not?
You talking about players on the team?
Players on the team with Dillon Gabriel, by the way, not quite white guy, whatever he is, and you have but you could play the race card all day long. You could do all sorts of stuff. And who else around the league? Who is saying anything? Like, let's say your theory is right. I don't really think they have the discipline to not do that. I think guys would be saying things. They'd be leaking. They wouldn't maybe say it outright. They'd be leaking it to Josina Anderson or somebody, right? And so we would be hearing it. There's an uprising inside the locker room. We're hearing nothing. We get absolutely nothing.
That'll start this week. I think they're headed into a bye. Seriously, I think it's time for those leaks to start happening, particularly after the way Dillon Gabriel played this weekend. It's like, hey, let's give him a chance, blah, blah, blah. But if we don't, you're right. If we don't start hearing those rumblings and noise, then Shedeur is just bad news, and the players and coaches are all in agreement. And as it relates to the head coach hating Shedeur, I've seen that in my own. As a redshirt freshman, I should have been a starter, and my attitude was horrendous. I was a nightmare for the coaches, and it's like, man, we put this dude out here with his attitude and how lazy he's been, even though he's better than the guys we're playing. That would be crazy. It would set such a bad tone for the entire team, and so I get why, Shedeur, with just the way he's conducted himself, the stuff we've seen publicly, I can only imagine privately how much bad energy he's putting into that locker room. And so, anyway, we'll end my Shedeur conversation there and move to college football. Brian Kelly fired. Everybody, I think, agrees this is a justifiable firing when Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, and Nick Saban, all within their first 4 years, won a conference title and a national title, all within their first 4 years. Brian Kelly is now, I believe, in his fourth year and hasn't won a conference title, certainly wasn't going to compete for one this year, wasn't going to win a national title. Brian Kelly, I don't think Brian Kelly is a bad coach. I think Brian Kelly was a horrendous choice for LSU. Just didn't fit the culture. It was just bad from the jump. Steve?
Brian Kelly's actually a very good coach. If you look at his whole history, from Grand Valley State to Cincinnati to Notre Dame, people forget he made a national title game, went to the playoffs more than a couple times. He's a good coach. He'll probably end up on his feet if he doesn't want to just live off that money. But Jason, I think most people understood. He, to me, looks like a Northerner. I don't want to say Yankee, but and LSU is one of those places, especially with a lot of SEC jobs, the cultural fit matters, right? Now, Nick Saban was so great, that became the culture, right? But Ed Orgeron, no matter what anyone says with that Cajun accent of his, he just sounded like Baton Rouge. God, every LSU fan wanted it for Ed Orgeron. Brian Kelly's not like that. He does not give you the warm and fuzzies. He's not going to glad hand people. That's just not the way he is. We all know the stories. Also, Jason, when he got introduced to the LSU public at that basketball game, and he starts trying to do his version of Cajun, I just said, okay, right there should be an admission. This is not a great hire. Because if you actually look at his record, guys, it's not terrible. The problem was it was trending in the wrong direction. First year, they actually beat Alabama. They won double-digit games. Second year, they actually won a Heisman Trophy under his watch, Jaden Daniels. So you're thinking, okay, that's a good foundation. It was starting from last year when they lost about, 3-4 games. And this year, when Brian Kelly said, hey, we spent $19 million, we're ready to do it here, my best roster ever, I'm going to keep receipts, See you at the national title. Those words ended up haunting him.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of, Steve, when Brian Kelly was in the gym trying to talk as Cajun as possible. Do you remember when Hillary Clinton was trying to talk to black people? It was exactly that same feeling. That was Brian Kelly. It was the downfall of his tenure right there. I think you guys hit on something that's exactly right. Coaches almost always have to fit the culture of the place that they're going. The best example of this right now is Dan Campbell. The Lions had to find a guy that fit Detroit, and they went through person after person after person after person. Nobody really fit Detroit because nobody really fits Detroit, okay? Until Dan Campbell came along. And suddenly you're like, oh, that guy's like, that's Mr. Detroit right there. He gets it. And the city loves him. So I think that's a big part of it. The other thing I'd just add to what Steve's saying, Steve, I think the offense is ranked 12th this year in the SEC after having a Heisman Trophy winner just 2 years ago. And so at some point, like you've got to be known for something. You have to move along. And stuff's moving too fast. I'm telling you, when you get your third loss that early in the season, you're in a position now where, look, Brian Kelly might be good, but like he didn't ever get over the hump at Notre Dame either. Like at some point, all these guys, when you're LSU, when you're Alabama, when you're Florida, when you're Penn State, all these guys that are firing coaches early right now, I'm going to keep beating this drum. This is why I don't think Eli Drinkwitz is leaving Missouri. It's why I don't think Lane Kiffin's leaving Ole Miss. Those guys have more job security than anybody in the world. They'll stay there forever. You don't ever have to win a national championship. You got to win double-digit games a lot, and the fans are going to be really, really happy. It's just not true at LSU. You got to get over the hump.
TJ, to your point, I'm surprised that Brian Kelly didn't bring out a cayenne pepper out of his back pocket, so I just keep this everywhere I go. So it's one of those things. But anyway, here's the thing with Brian Kelly. You look at Notre Dame, where he thought, they're not
crawfish etouffee.
Yeah, or whatever. Okay, I'm not a Cajun. I don't pretend to be. And then he's doing these video shoots with these recruits with the circular camera. I'm thinking, oh God, Brian, you are an old white guy. It's okay to be but anyway, Marcus Freeman has immediately elevated Notre Dame, and he's a much more likable guy. Mm-hmm. Also, I rewatched the A&M game last night. Let me just tell you, A&M's really good. Mike Elko, in his second year, has that thing where I think the Aggies can make a national title run. But what I found interesting is during that third quarter implosion of LSU, where the game got completely out of hand, people started leaving Death Valley, but those who stayed for a reason. There were fire Brian Kelly chants, and the announcers were kind of like noticing, like, hey, this is kind of restless here. They lost the public, and once you lose the public in college towns, where that is the franchise, that existing coach almost has no shot. None.
Yeah, once you lose the public, that's when the whole city starts gossiping about all the things. Hey, your players beat up this person. Hey, your player caused a problem at this bar. Your player didn't show up for class. Yeah, once they start rooting against you right there in that city, it's a nightmare scenario. Guys, I want to move on to an interesting comparison. Clark Lee and what he's done at Vanderbilt versus Kirk Cignetti and what he's done at Indiana. Obviously, Indiana has a case to be the number one ranked team in the country. Vanderbilt has a loss, and not right now in the contention, but they got a shot to make the playoffs. What's been more impressive, what Clark Lee is doing at Vanderbilt or what Kirk Cignetti is doing at Indiana? Steve?
Okay, this is the old Ginger or Marianne question because they're both impressive, but keep this in mind. It was less than about, 15 years ago that James Franklin was turning out 9-win seasons at Vanderbilt? I mean, during my lifetime, the only time I remember Indiana being respectable to good in football was with Bill Mallory in the mid to late 80s, going all the way up to Trent Green, Von Dunbar, and then it was hard to kind of keep that thing going. But I got to go with Cignetti by a smidge.
Vanderbilt's an academic school. Indiana's a good school, but I mean, it's
It is, but again, my tiebreaker is recent track record of has anyone had success. It's close. I think you can make an argument for either one, but the fact that Cignetti just came right off the bat, and he brought a lot of guys from James Madison, used the portal. I'm watching this UCLA game early, and they're supposed to blow out UCLA. But the way they are absolutely relentless for 60 minutes, and they just pour it on and pile it on, and the guys play hard and they play with the purpose the whole game. It's impressive. It really is. And I know he re-signed an extension that's going to keep him in Bloomington for at least another year. Clark Lea's going to be interesting, Jason, because keep this in mind. He's a Vanderbilt alum, but I get the sense teams are going to come a-calling.
Him being an alum, and Vanderbilt's got a lot of alums with a lot of money. I think it makes sense for him to stay at Vanderbilt just because the transfer portal and the NIL situation has really changed the dynamics of football, where you can't, if you got the money to spend, why wouldn't a kid come to Nashville, Tennessee? That's as good a college town as you can find. So, I think Clark Lee would stick around, and I tend to lean, and I love with what Kirk Cignetti's doing. They may have the best team in the country and could win the national title this year, but I'm slightly more impressed with what Kirk Cignetti's doing at Vanderbilt. It's in the SEC, and maybe I'm just falling for the branding and hype that the SEC is still the best conference and it has more depth than the Big Ten. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that is what I believe. So I'm a little bit more impressed with what Kirk Cignetti's doing. TJ?
I agree with a lot of what Steve said. And remember, James Franklin had back-to-back 9-win seasons at Vanderbilt before the NIL, before you could go pay players. And then you had to actually just convince people to come to Vanderbilt and say, I know your life's going to be really, really hard, but I promise you'll appreciate it later in life. All right, that's how you had to recruit people back then. I was looking up some of the stats. Indiana, by the way, speaking of guys who totally fit the culture, Cignetti is like the football version of Bobby Knight. He's absolutely perfect for the Indiana culture. And so that's a big reason why it's working there. But prior to last year, where they won 11 games last year, won 11-2, they had not won 9 games since 1967. They're 8-0 right now. All right, so Indiana.
Can that be right? You're telling me Bill Mallory never won 9 games?
I think the most they won was 8, unless I just Hadley can fact check me right now.
Yeah,
1967 they won 9, and then Tom Allen went 8-5 one year in the last decade sometime. Prior to that, I think it was 1967 they won 9 games one time, and so he's now going to have back-to-back games. And when was the last time they were ranked in the top 5? And you can argue like, oh well, they haven't beaten anybody. Well, it's like, look, Vanderbilt right now, you're saying their best wins are Missouri, whose quarterback dislocated his ankle at the 1-yard line, and Missouri had a decent chance to win that game on the road at Vanderbilt. And his other big win this year is LSU, whose coach just got fired. So it's not like Vanderbilt has these massive wins either. They're in the SEC, but Cignetti just beat Oregon. Oregon's a good team, and they beat them by 10. They didn't just slide by. So I think Cignetti, I will go back to what he says. I actually hate the arrogance, to be honest with you, but he's been right. He wins. Google him.
I covered the 6-5-1 Peach Bowl team that Bill Mallory put together in 1990. I went to that Peach Bowl. That was quite a trip to Atlanta. But you're right. Yeah. Bill Mallory won 8 games like 3 times at Indiana, and he's the greatest in my memory. It's like he's the greatest Indiana coach of all time. Well, Kirk said, "I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead."
Yeah, and also, to TJ's point, not only did they beat Oregon, they beat them in Autzen. And if you take away that pick 6, that's even more than a 10-point game. I remember watching that when Mendoza throws the ball, ill-advised throw, and I'm thinking, okay, here it comes. Ducks are going to run. This is their game. The way Indiana just methodically took control of that game, or retook control, and scored the last 10 points, I said, wow, this team is actually significantly better than last year's squad. And I'll tell you what one of the differences. Last year's quarterback was a guy out of Ohio. He was a solid player. Fernando Mendoza is an NFL-level quarterback that will probably be drafted in the top 5 whenever he comes out. That particular upgrade, and the fact that they brought back their 2 leading receivers, Surratt and Cooper, and they brought back the base of their defense. Last year, I do think they were a little bit, I don't want to say mirage, but they were helped by a generous schedule. I believe this year's team is much more legitimate in terms of making a playoff run.
Guys, I want to move on to Pat McAfee. He's back in the news cycle again. Front Office Sports is saying that some of the producers at ESPN, they're tired of his diva behavior, and they're saying this is underlings. But McAfee was back in the news last week because he made some comments about how old white people and old ESPN people hate me, and I'm not a fan of these comments. This is posturing and a bit of pandering to the woke crowd a little bit. McAfee suggesting old white people and old ESPN people, because if he were being real, he'd have to say, Stephen A. Smith and those black people on First Take, they hate me too. But he'll never say that. And so, anyway, I just, for Front Office Sports and Mike McCarthy to write this story, someone is feeding McCarthy and Front Office Sports this information. Is Pat McAfee so firmly entrenched at ESPN that there's nothing that can be done about him? Or is this a sign of potential trouble down the road for Pat McAfee if they won't let this story go, and if they're leaking information? Someone must feel like they have some momentum. Someone's putting a battery in someone's back that we can shake up the ground around Pat McAfee. Steve, your thoughts?
Here's the reality. If Pat McAfee decided to quit and/or got relieved of his duties at ESPN, what's the worst thing that would happen?
Nothing.
He would just go back to doing his own show and his own platform, being independent, and he'd have 5 major sponsors lined up to give him a lot of money. He has a safety net. Now, that makes him powerful. I don't know if that makes him untouchable. I will say this, as someone that has watched College Game Day for years, and I probably watch as little of it now as I have ever before. It's the truth. I still record it. But generally, during an hour and a half of that show, I'm on my way to JB's for Football Palooza. But I do catch the first 20 minutes. He has brought an energy and a vibe to that show that is greatly needed. The way he gets the live audience at whatever city he's in, college town, energized and then ready to do the show, and he makes it fun. It works. So maybe he deserves a little bit of grace. Yeah, there's going to be people that are probably Lee Corso loyalists, or they want the regular guy that's just going to know his role. But you have to understand, Pat McAfee is a show and a brand unto himself. That's the truth. He plays by a different set of rules.
I don't think, though, that old white people at ESPN are Pat McAfee's problems. Pat McAfee's problems are Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Clark and L. Duncan and that group. And maybe the old white people are reacting to that group, but, McAfee unpacking his thoughts this way is intentional, and maybe it's strategic and it's the right one, because if he's really pointed out where his problems are, maybe that's a problem he can't handle, or maybe he's going after the people that support his problem, and maybe those guys are the old white guys at ESPN who see themselves as 1960s hippies and liberals that, want to support Stephen A. Smith and Ryan and that whole deal. But, I find the attack here a bit disingenuous and just a bit misguided. But, TJ, your thoughts?
Well, I haven't seen McAfee openly feud, and just correct me if I'm wrong, because I may just be this. I'm going off of memory here. Openly feud with on-air talents at ESPN. I think I've only seen him feud with people that can't really feud back at ESPN. The higher ups. Norby was one of the guys. He's called some people by name, and he's in fights with executives. He doesn't seem to be trying to feud with the on-air types. I'm really seeing him feud with Ryan Clark or Stephen A. Smith, and so perhaps that's strategic in some way. I don't actually know. I wonder if there's more to it than we know. What's he actually getting at, and what's his down? Because there is one part of this, right? I haven't really seen him get in a race too much, but like by saying things like this, it does give you cover to tell the truth a little bit more when you go to criticize black people. It's like, what do you mean? I'm at war with everybody. I'm at war with stupid people. And this time that stupid person's black. I'm at war with these stupid white people all the time in the company that I work for. The only other thing that I'd tell you though, Jason, is I went to College game day this weekend on Saturday morning in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I can't even begin to tell you how much the audience adores Pat McAfee. Yeah. You watch them come off the stage, and look, people love Kirk Herbstreit, and people really like Reese Davis, and that they seem to like Desmond, and Saban. People aren't sure what to do with exactly. It's kind of funny to watch that because he's the old school coach, and like they like him, but it's sort of like don't touch me. But I'm telling you, when Pat McAfee walks by, it's like people. I'm being hyperbolic. It's as though they're fainting. It is something different when Pat McAfee walks by. He is one of them. And that is something that ESPN doesn't have, and it's actually a real problem for ESPN because nobody thinks journalists or anybody at ESPN is anything like them anymore. Everybody at ESPN talks down to them, except for Pat McAfee, who they all feel like is their best friend. And that is probably his best weapon.
That, TJ, what you're unpacking there is like Pat McAfee is perhaps the only person at ESPN who connects with the audience in a real way. Stephen A. Smith, and we'll show you that they did something at an HBCU where Cam Newton slapped a mascot or whatever. But in comparison to like what First Take and though the outreach they do at HBCUs and some of the events they do out in public, they're so tall, they're so tiny compared to what McAfee, when he goes out with that game day crowd, and that real connection that you see. And for some reason, I don't know why, I watched a lot of game day this past weekend on Saturday. I saw the kid that kicked the field goal and won $500,000 or whatever. That was really good, compelling TV. And that kid that kicked the field goal was really likable. And McAfee and Herbstreit and the way everybody rallied, that was good TV. And there is a connection there that I'm sure bothers Stephen A. and a lot of the other on-air talent, that he gets that large of a platform. Because wouldn't you say, Steve, and I know you're watching less of it, but game day is probably the best thing on ESPN at this point.
It's one of the 3 or 4 most important shows that they do. It's a seasonal show. It's about, 15 weeks, maybe?
What are the other two? What are the other two?
I would still say Sports Center and First Take. I mean, I'm just going by tradition here.
Yeah, then there's a real distance between.
Right. You're right about that. But when you are a network that is invested into college football in specific leagues the way ESPN is, your flagship pregame show, which dominates that market, because I know Fox has one too, they do a good job, but let's be honest, 90% of America, if you think of a college pregame show, you think of College game day. And what I have seen this year, the opening segment, which sets the tone, McAfee dominates it. He really does. He's not just an ensemble player in that segment. He is actually the star.
Oh, listen, he referenced a business, a bar that, one of my best friends owns, and it was a big deal to my best friend, and nothing is a big deal to this guy. He's him and George Strait and all, every country music star, Kid Rock, he's friends with, but getting referenced by McAfee, losers getting referenced, was a big deal to him. And I don't know, and now I'm authentic because I watched a lot of game day this weekend. The only thing I didn't like was the country music they chose to play. It's like, this is the best we can get, Kenny Chesney, and I don't even know who the opening song was. It bothered me. Yeah, yes, it bothered me. It's like, I want the people that matter now. Kenny Chesney used to matter. I didn't. I wanted better. I'm just.
Who was the other one? It was Dierks Bentley. Those are 2 very high profile. I mean, Kenny. You're not going to get many people to agree with you on Kenny Chesney. I'm not a huge Dierks Bentley fan myself, but I'm telling you, Kenny Chesney still plays pretty regularly in our house, and we listen to almost explicitly Christian music.
Yes, I know, TJ. You're a weirdo.
Listen,
do
you know what the crowd looked like, Jason? They looked just like me, a bunch of younger white guys that loved when Kenny Chesney went up there because I was there when he went up there, and so I'll just tell you that the response there was good. To add to the McAfee conversation, they Kirk Herbstreit. I love Kirk. He's such a buttoned up guy and whatever.
Yeah.
It's so different than what you see out of Pat McAfee. Like they had one segment where they're talking about percent chances to win, and he's like, Pat's talking about it. Well, he's got a 2% chance to win. I don't think anybody's taken that except for maybe Chauncey Billups in his poker games. Okay, he has the ability to pull things, and he says things that nobody ever said on the show. Can you imagine Kirk Herbstreit ever saying that? Right? Nobody on the show. He's changed it to such a degree. And again, in behavior, I was looking at all the Vanderbilt guys around there, and a bunch of frat boys. They act the same. They really do. It feels like they are one of us. And it's very hard to explain, but I'm telling you, there are contrast that with Stephen A. walking into Colorado acting like he's Mr. Superstar Untouchable. All right. That versus Pat McAfee, when you see him coming off the stage, he's one by one fist pumping everybody through the crowd. Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you guys. Hey, I'll see you. It's just so different. I don't think anybody, in fact, I'm not sure there's another guy in media, anything like that. And to wrap this up, Steve mentioned the other, big noon kickoff and all this stuff. Has anybody heard of Dave Portnoy since first week when we were all trying to figure out is this going to work and what is it? It's been a total flop. I've not heard a single person talking about it. Not only is the Barstool show flopping on Fox, which it absolutely is. The only place that I see it on is when I go to Lifetime Gym in the morning. They have it on there and nobody else is watching it. You see everybody else looking at the other TVs. Nobody's interested. I haven't heard anything. He makes no news at all. And yet, every single weekend, do I see Pat McAfee and the kicking contest and something he says trending on Twitter every weekend.
Yeah, he's in a power position. Steve, I'll give you the final thought and we'll wrap the segment up.
No, the bottom line is McAfee. I think you have a good point. That McAfee can't flat out say, yeah, there's a certain demographic that hates me. So sometimes you cloud yourself. Well, hey, these white folks, God, you almost draw something. Now that I think about it, he is trying to draw cover now that I think about it. But yeah, College Game Day is still something. Look, I was very saddened when Lee Corso left. I actually did make it a point to watch his last appearance. I saw the hour-long special they did. It's like a trip down memory lane. But in basically replacing the coach for McAfee, they didn't hit a home run. They hit a grand slam.
Final thing I'll say here, Steve, and just a quick, am I crazy or not? I think what McAfee has done is potentially made game day better than inside the NBA. Because Barkley's the other person that has that McAfee appeal, and Barkley's someone like he's super personable, will engage with anybody. But I think game day may be higher profile and more important and maybe even better than inside the NBA.
Yeah, that is true, but here's the difference, though. Inside the NBA is actually better than the games. College football, the game is the game. I don't ever watch a pre- or post-game show saying, God, that was better than the game. Great moment. I want to give ESPN a little credit, though. They have not fixed or changed a lot with Inside the NBA, by the way. I've been watching clips. They kind of left it alone, and it was a great moment where Kenny Smith's trying to make excuses for all these guys gambling, talking about it's so addictive. These poor guys. And Paul's like, would you shut up and finish? Because you're offending me. No, it's dumb. These guys are, I'm thinking, they didn't. I said that right there is why Inside the NBA is the greatest post-game show in the history of sports, right there.
All right, I got to let TJ and Steve go. I got one more thought I want to get off my chest. Shannon Sharpe has said something interesting and revealing that I'll react to. Next. They can make anything sound good. The words that I'm saying right now on this show, they can put a beat behind it, beat behind it, beat behind it, beat behind it, and put their sales team behind it, and put their television industry behind it, and put their internet algorithms behind it, and make the words that I'm saying right now into a rap song, beat behind it, beat behind it, beat behind it, that the idiots in the world, and I'm talking about me and everybody else, we will buy it and call it great. Beat behind it, beat behind it. The music industry doesn't reward talent, not the American music industry, not the world's music industry. It doesn't reward talent. It rewards the promotion of degeneracy.
These words are our religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. Luke, I want to play this clip from Shannon Sharpe that I found fascinating. He's talking about how people have stepped away from him, given him some distance and some space. Now that he's on the other side of being super successful, let's play the.
I don't want y'all to have the wrong impression, but I'm just very guarded now. I'm very, very guarded. I was always on alert, but I'm on high alert because I really don't know who I can really trust. Because what I've seen over the last 6 months, there are very few people that you can actually trust.
Yeah. Come on now.
Yeah. And you remember we had this conversation, Ocho, about being down and then people feel like they can pile on.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what was going to happen. I appreciate you, Ocho, because you're like, hey, when you text me, Unc, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Whatever we got to go through, we going through it. You ain't by yourself.
Hey, till the wheels fall off. Shit, you gave me opportunity.
There are so many people, Ocho and Joe,
where I'm going,
that used to call, that used to text.
Yeah.
I ain't heard from them since this happened.
But that's all right, though.
I don't wish this on anybody. But what it did do is it really showed me who's really, really there.
Right.
There are a lot of people on the peripheral. When things were going well, when we were at the apex and getting invited to everything.
Yeah.
I'm talking about ain't called. And I'm talking about we were talking once a month, twice a month.
Right.
I've been down before. This public lashing and ridicule and scorn and humiliation.
Been there.
Take your lumps. But it took me a while to realize, like, hold on. You call the people that you're closest to. Brother, mom, sister, kids, best friend, Bucket Burns. You explain to them what? They say, bro, we good. Once I got to that, Ocho, you and I talked about this. Man, look, it is what it is. I'm gonna be all right.
I ain't even want to hear it. We good.
Sunshine follows rain.
What time?
Shannon, here's what I would say. You have your feet in both worlds. I don't even know if I would call it lukewarm, but it's when you're trying to live in both worlds, you're shocked and surprised that, like, oh, a lot of the people that pretended to be your friends aren't your friends. And that's the lesson you're learning here is like, hey, they loved me when I was hot. I hate to make this reference, but I will. But some rap friends of mine from Kansas City, Scatterman and Snug Brim, they love you when you're up. They hate you when you're down. Or I can't remember the song, but it's one of them secular rap songs. I can't believe Shannon at his age is surprised that people have backed away from him given the controversies he's been involved in. They were never your friends, and you should have never saw them as your friends. They were people that wanted to ride your coattails of secular success. And now that those coattails have been clipped, they don't want any parts of you. There should be no surprise here, Shannon. This is what life and a world removed from Jesus Christ, this is what it is. You put your faith and trust in Jesus, and then you're not surprised when the world turns on you when you get in trouble. And so Shannon, if you notice in that clip, he's wearing a chain that has a cross on it. But the T-shirt he has on is the Joker. He's got his feet in both worlds. He's confused. And so therefore he's surprised by how the world reacts when they have no financial gain, no popularity, they can't clout chase off you. There's no benefit to being Shannon Sharpe's friends. And so he's surprised and talking about haven't called. Well, what did you expect? Were they calling before you had that super successful run? It's the whole conversation seems a bit immature for people as mature or as old as Shannon Sharpe and Ocho Cinco and I think that was Joe Johnson, the former NBA player. And I'm not saying this to scold these guys, but I'm saying put your faith in something more sturdy than your financial success, than your YouTube success. It's not surprising that Shannon, when you've been exposed as someone that like maybe sexually harasses women in a serial fashion, you've had these problems. You seem to involve yourself with super young women and give them access and the ability to harm you. You ran around with an openly gay man as your BFF, taking him to games and sitting courtside with your gay stylist, hopping in and out of cars with purses and dressed in a flamboyant way. And you're wondering now that, you can't make people money or they can't chase internet traction off of you. You're wondering why people have stepped away. Of course, they should have stepped away, or they should have been warning you when you were running around with your gay stylist sitting courtside. They should have been warning you when multiple women have made accusations about your misbehavior. They should have been warning you when, you gave this young girl and whoever's controlling her. And I don't want to disparage a young lady because I don't know her, but there are those of us with enough worldly knowledge that would say, like, that sounds like a pimp and a hoe situation. And those words sound super negative, but and they are super negative, but it just sounds like she had some man that had controls over her and was actually advising her. Or maybe she had an older woman that was advising her on how to bilk you out of that money. And so, Shannon, if you had put your faith in the right person, Jesus Christ, and sought wisdom in the Bible, these mistakes that have haunted you and have damaged your image and brand, you would have avoided them. And so the world has turned its back on you for now. And you're at a crossroads. You can choose Christ or you can choose the world. And it's like God and life has told you which direction to go. You're resisting it. I think you have enough biblical knowledge. You had a good enough upbringing. I think you're smart enough to know which direction you should go. But like a lot of us, you just don't have the discipline to go that direction. Not in a real way. It is hard. Trust, I'm in a daily pursuit of choosing the narrow gate, the narrow path. It's hard. And God has given you enough warnings, and life has given you enough warnings that you know which path you should go down. Choose that road, and then you won't be on your podcast complaining that people that weren't your friends are no longer acting like they are your friends. All right. That's it, and that's all for us today. We'll play tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back.